It's waxing lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutton. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague and man who I would never have to trick with Instagram stories is Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
That story has just swept the nation. I literally think my co-workers talked of nothing else today.
For those who are unaware, and if you are unaware, I assume you're from a different country. Congratulations. Ours is a mess at the moment. What a famous wag, Wayne Rooney's wife, captured or believes to have captured, allegedly. I'm going to put all that stuff in case either are listening. Another wag's wife for selling stories to a disreputable newspaper by hiding all of her Instagram stories from everyone apart from that person, and still allowing those stories to come to the surface, almost proving undoubtedly that it is her.
This is the murder she wrote for the 21st century.
It's the story we didn't know we needed until we got it, Neil.
That's it. I'm not entirely certain that I do need it, but, I think we should, put it this way, it's in our lives now.
Put it this way, Neil, at the moment, a former bankruptee and member of a star of The Apprentice is running a country and calling himself the most wisdom man in the world. A bumbling buffoon is heading straight first into UK and EU disaster. So I'm all for going back to the halcyon days when the only thing we had to worry about was what wags were up to.
It was more innocent time, I suppose.
Correct, Neil. Correct. Enough hard-hitting political affairs.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's move on with the show. This week, plugged into the Mainz. I wanted to do loads of stories. Neil wanted to do the one I don't want to talk about. Neil got his wish, and we'll get onto that momentarily.
Yeah. Apparently, I'm the rainmaker around here, and I get to decide what we talk about.
Well, yeah. Then obviously, fancy darling, fancy loser, and team of the week. Where I get to say, wow, did I pick DJ Shark Jr. last week? Yes. And for every good one, you say, oh, look, I was the one who picked Mike Evans and not Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I was the one who loved Philip Dorsett and hated Aaron Jones.
Gotta love fancy, Neil. Gotta love it. But before we get on to fantasy, let us plug into the Mainz. Neil, as people who have been listening to this show know, this is usually a Philadelphia Eagles podcast.
When we have something good to talk about, yes,
when we have something good to talk about, it's a Philadelphia Eagles podcast, and I sit quietly and every now and again ask a question. However, as I'm sure everyone is well aware, I support the Washington team. I've used semi-professional, I've used professional, I've used Redskins and many different guys. I'm just going to use team at the moment, and have done since 1990. Maybe 1989, a long time. Let's put it like that. Yes, that's right. I am only 21, but did support them from 89. You do the math. So it seemed silly not to talk about the Washington franchise this week, as everybody else is. And they'd be a bit naive if someone who supports that team didn't talk about it. And
you don't want Matthew Berry to be the only one who's doing it.
Matthew Berry doing it, obviously. I've seen Tony Kornheiser, obviously. I've seen Jason Lackenfora, used to write for the Washington Post. David Aldridge used to write for the Washington Post. Mike Freeman used to write for the Washington Post. Ryan Clark spoke about it on TV. Used to play for Washington.
And Luke Grant, a Washington fan growing up, has talked about it.
LeVar Arrington, former Washington player, also talk about it. So Neil wanted me to talk about it. So I will talk for the majority of this, and Neil will chip in, trying desperately not to laugh. Why I desperately try not to.
I'm not trying at all.
Why I try desperately not to swear a lot, shout a lot, and possibly cry a little. Yeah.
Ugly cry or?
Not ugly cry. I don't think ugly cry. I'm not there on it. They're not dying. That actually may.
No, they are.
No, I think that might be better if they were dead. That may help. Let's go first onto the fact that let's get to Jay Gruden first. That's a good place to start. I think my feelings on him are pretty clear. I've got no issue really with Jay. I've never really thought he was a head coach. The fact that he is the longest serving head coach under Dan Snyder probably says a lot. I think he's a good to very good offensive coordinator, but probably needs structure of someone else. It's like having your uncle be in charge of you full time. Not really a good idea. A lot of people say, "Oh, I love Jay because he let us get away with stuff." Is the kind of underpinning of the talk from the players. I look and listen to Adrian Peterson's comments on the game last week where they got absolutely obliterated by the Patriots, where he said, I watched loads of tape on the Patriots and they do loads of exotic stuff, and in the game they didn't do any of that and just kind of said, we'll allow you to F this up. That's an indictment of the coaching, of which Jay is the head of. Now, I know he's not a defensive coordinator. However, if you allow people to be relaxed, I guess relaxed things happen, right? I'm not asking for Tom Coughlin levels of dictatorial reign here, but I would like some kind of control on the situation.
I think I'm not a tape grinder, I'm a numbers guy, but I think if you watch the Washington offense over the last few years, you can see there are plays that you can almost visualise what they were supposed to be. And if they worked, you think, that's a good play. This is a head coach or an offensive play caller who knows how to scheme up offenses. But when the players are not good enough to make the plays, when the quarterback can't make the throw, when the wide receiver can't make the catch, when the running back can't hit the hole, when the offensive line can't block, coaching can only do so much. Now, people forget that Washington were 6-3 at one stage last season and leading the NFC East. But if all it takes is to lose Alex Smith to take your team down a rabbit hole from which they'll never recover, I would wager that that's probably not a team that was built to succeed in the long run. And again, I don't want to put all that on Jay Gruden because I think it's safe to say he didn't have an awful lot of say when it came to most of the personnel decisions. So he was doing the best he could with what he was given.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Neil. I think, you look at the team, it's made the playoffs twice under Jay, lost both times.
Yeah.
He's a Gruden, right, and that's an issue in terms of they are offensively very smart, however, hate quarterbacks, which is really weird. Like, you're supposed to, if you're an offensive guy, you want your, Andy Reid is like an offensive genius in some circles, right? And you get the feeling that Andy Reid would take bullets or jump in front of train for his quarterbacks, and always has, regardless of how poorly they have played. In certain situations, teams would have given up on McNabb before Reid did.
Yes.
Not trying to be offensive, that they would have. Like,
I think
the Grudens can't wait they just see someone and go, I don't like him, so I'm not going to deal with him.
Yeah.
And that's an issue. And if someone picks, he basically got the job under the illusion that he was going to help RG3, and then kind of said, I'm not going to. Okay, fair enough. I don't, okay, fine. RG3's got many issues, and that's a different conversation. He then has Kerr. I keep on saying Kerr now just because we joke about it all the time. He has Cousins and does really well with him, but kind of never really bats for him. Even when he's playing well, he's never really fought his corner. And okay, you can kind of explain that away because he's not great. But, you get 4,000 yards and win 10 games with someone. Like, you know, you'd think there would be some kind of relationship. It doesn't seem like there is. He's in love with Colt McCoy. It's weird. Like it's weird, but whatever. You know, I look and think, oh, Dwayne Haskins, he's not ready. Like, okay. Like, just out of interest, what's your effing job? Just
get him ready.
Like, your job is to get him ready. He's been there. He didn't miss any practices. He didn't hold out.
I wonder if Jake Gruden was the offensive coordinator or the quarterback's coach, he'd probably do a very good job with Dwayne Haskins. But because he's the head coach and he's separated and he's not dealing with him per se every day, all he's seeing is that guy's not ready. I'm not putting him in which case he's probably being let down by the coaches around him who should be getting him ready. But if it's a case of... It's always like, if a drafted player is going up against an undrafted player for the same job, the team will highlight the drafted player's strengths and they will talk up the undrafted player's weaknesses sometimes just to try and convince themselves that they were right. Yeah. And maybe it's a case of, I didn't want this guy anyway. I'm not going to go out of my way to get him ready. But if my coaches come up to me and say, we need to be getting him in, then I'll try and find some way to get him in. But if they're coming up to me and saying, he's still not there, I'm not pushing him because I don't want him in.
Yeah, I think that's enough on Jay. What I would say to Jay is, at the moment, 3 of the 10 best teams in the NFL are the Los Angeles Rams, the San Francisco 49ers,
Kyle Shanahan,
and the Green Bay Packers.
Matt LaFleur.
They all have something in common. They're weirdly part of the Jay Gruden coaching tree.
It was interesting on the Yahoo football podcast. Charles Robinson said, we'll get to the bigger point here, but I'll mention his name now. Daniel Snyder does not get told things he doesn't need to know by people within the building. So at no stage was anyone going up to him saying, I'll tell you what, this McVay guy, we're going to lose him, and we should keep him. Now, whether you keep him or not, and Washington are what they are, and Sean McVay is what he is, but if it was just a case of, if he went, outside of, put it this way, if he spoke to anyone other than Bruce Allen, he might learn something that would help him. I just want to, there's some names, obviously, it's a head coaching job that's open, and these are the favourites that I've seen, according to this one website. I'm not going to name it because we don't do free adverts. So, I just have some things that I want to say about these first few names, okay? So there's Eric Bieniemy. It's a great name. He's the Kansas City Chiefs offense coordinator. Now, obviously, that's a job that people looked at and thought, oh, doesn't call plays, but, it's a job we want because, Doug, Matt Nagy. Byron Leftwich, Mike Pettin, Todd Bowles, Greg Olson, Josh McDaniels, Kevin O'Connell, who is your offensive coordinator
now,
Mike Tomlin, Jim Caldwell, Mike McCarthy. Right. Some of these names, Eric Bieniemy, his head coach is Andy Reid.
Exactly. No chance.
Greg Olson, his head coach is John Gruden.
No chance.
Josh McDaniels, his head coach is Bill Belichick.
Even less chance.
These are some coaches who you're not telling me their head coach is not saying to them, "Do not take that job."
This, and I think let's get onto that, Neil. And this is like, let's get into the wider franchise talk based on that bounce, right? Also like Mike Tomlin, let's lead the most stable franchise in the NFL for the Washington team. What?
Yeah, no thanks.
So we've had Chris Wessling on this show before, and I spoke to Chris on his show, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Where I raised the question of, like, you gave up on the Bengals, and, rightfully so, giving, the decades worth, which Chris has quite rightly highlighted. Like,
yeah,
Washington are in that level now. Okay? Yeah. And like, I think now with Cincinnati, you actually know what you're getting. Whether you like it or not, there's a logic. It's cheap. It's cheerful. It's a mom and pop organization. They don't pay free agents. but they do like to keep the players that they've got. They're not a team for sorting anything like that out. Like, what's Washington?
Nothing.
There's no logic to it. There has never been a logic to it. It used to be, well, let's get a load of high-priced free agents. That didn't work. When
you say this, we are specifically talking now about the Daniel Snyder era.
Well, yeah, since the last 20 years.
Yeah.
21 years. So we did the high price free agent thing, didn't work. Did the I'm not going to do anything, didn't work. Now, in the past, I guess, 5-6 years, we've had the I'm not doing anything, but I've got a puppet who will do it all for me. Who, by the way, yesterday was the first time he'd done a press conference in over 3 years, and he's head of the operation.
And there's a reason why he shouldn't do that, because the amount of bullshit he spoke.
Well, exactly. But the problem is with that, Neil, is that it's not just that. It's they must both believe that, because that wasn't like a lie. Like, we've all stood up and said stuff where you're like, he doesn't believe that. Like, they believe that. Yeah. Like, that's the problem. Like, they've lost over 40 members of staff across the whole franchise, from high to medium to low positions. They just got rid of them because they didn't want to work there anymore. Now, I'm not talking about players.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I'm talking about, head of media operations and stuff like that. And people think it's fine. All his best mates just work for him and no one else now. And that's not weird. Now, of course it's weird. The game day situation, I've never been to FedEx, but I haven't heard anyone have a good word about it. Ever. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's dead hard to get to. It's not in Washington.
And no Washington fans go.
And no Washington fans go for two reasons. It's an horrific game day experience. And also, the team sucks and has for years. It doesn't help the Redskins that the Capitals won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago and are good and have been good for a decade, and that the baseball team, the Nationals, are in the playoffs, actually playing tonight against the Dodgers to go to the, our version of the NFC title game in a one-off game because it's 2-2. So the other two teams have taken over. You can't legislate for that. But this was a place that bled Washington Redskins and now has complete and utter apathy for it. And the owner and the head of personnel, president, whatever you want to call them, actually don't care.
No.
Now, if they did care, they do something about it. So they can say they care, but they obviously don't care. Because if you cared, you'd do something. It's like the analogy of I use in the Prem. I guess the example may be like Newcastle United. Like Mike Ashley tells everybody who wants to listen that he wants to sell. He doesn't want to sell. Do you know that? Because he hasn't sold them, so he doesn't want to sell them. The whole in Washington, there's no accountability. The fact that Bruce Allen stood up there and told David Aldridge, not like some dude off the street, like a Hall of Fame reporter, that the culture is good. I guess he said damn good, is frankly disgusting. Like it's not. It can't be. Like, it might be in your office when you and Dan go and play golf or something, but no one wants to work for you. No one. At any level. I'm not just talking football operations here. This is not a football operations. I haven't even got to the football operations. No one wants to work for the Washington franchise at any level.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing.
The one thing that I thought is, this is a team, this is a franchise that needs gutting. It needs someone to come in, obviously, and literally sweep through it all. But I mean, the names that let to mind are, people who we've seen can turn around moribund programs. The first name that came to mind for me was Jim Harbaugh. But I don't think it'd be an issue. Daniel Snyder, who spent how much on a yacht. I don't think the money for Jim Harbaugh would be the issue. I think Jim Harbaugh, because if we're talking about it, the rest of the NFL and all these coaches all know the problem. Okay, Jim, come in. We're going to pay you $20 million a year to be our head coach. What's the one thing we can do for you? You can fire Bruce Allen, and I never want him to be anywhere near the stadium again. Oh, can't do that. Then I'll stay where I am. And that would be the same if it was Nick Saban, the same if it's Tomlin. All these people are going to come in. The promising ones, the people who can actually do something, the people with a track record, the first sensible thing they will say is, get him out.
We laugh. Not laugh.
I laugh.
We laugh at the Jets, for example. But at least they attempt to do things what I would think in a logical way, right? They just do it badly.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. Like, okay, maybe you should look at the process. But at the moment, you think, well, you get rid of the coach, he's a joke. But you've got someone in place who understands personnel, so who can pick players. And then you get a new coach. Bingo, sound, not a problem. Like, when the issue is the owner and the president, like, what do you do? Like, the issue in all of these things is exactly the same. Exactly the same as it is at Newcastle, Mike Ashley. Like, Dan Snyder doesn't need to sell. Like, no one could turn up. It's like, I want to make it clear to everyone who's listening. Like, it's not the 1960s anymore. The amount of people in the stadium makes jack shit difference to the bottom line.
They've already had your money.
They got $750 million each off TV. And Neil, I believe that the salary cap is somewhere around 150 million.
Yeah.
Don't need to be a mathematician to work out it's a profitable enterprise owning an NFL team.
Yep.
But don't worry, they're trying to screw the players over again on the next one. So, and coming up is another round of TV deals.
Yeah. And this one's got like the streaming services and
Correct.
digital packages and whatnot.
Correct.
This is going to top $1 billion. This is going to easily. Every team could get a billion. So every team could get $1 billion from this deal.
So, this isn't being fixed. Like, and that's the problem for me. Like, to fix it, you fire Bruce Allen. You say you actually get someone to speak to Daniel Snyder. Like, do you want to win? You keep on telling me. You've told me for 21 years that you want to win. But you've never proven once that you want to win. Not once.
No.
Sorry, that's not true, right? Once you showed me that you may think about winning was when you got Scott McCloughan in and you had Jay with him, and the team looked half decent because you had someone who picked players and they picked it for the coach.
But Bruce Allen didn't like that. And the next minute, and don't get me wrong, Scott McCloughan has had problems with alcohol. But you don't need to throw him under the bus. Maybe you can help him out. Yeah.
Maybe you go, okay, well, Scott's not going to work out because of, all those issues. That's fine. So you replace him with who? Sorry, you didn't replace him? You didn't replace him. And then you got Doug Williams to come in. And like, Doug's a legend at the franchise. But has he got any expertise in scouting? Exactly. What's his job role?
Yeah. It's a fancy title that he's got, but but what do you do, Doug?
And it's not Doug's fault, right? I'm sure he's trying to do stuff. But again, you just want a Dan's meets. So great, got a load of Dan's meets in. Do you know what? Do you know the worst thing you can do when you work is work with a load of mates?
Yeah.
I don't want my boss to be my mate, or my boss to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I want professional.
Along,
yeah. No.
But you can't be my mate.
No, I want professionals in charge, so I can say you need to do that, and they understand that they need to do it, and they go and do it. You can respect me, you can not respect me, you can like me, not like me, but you will do what I do and do what I say. It's fine. It's not a problem. This franchise is going nowhere. They could get the first. They could get the first round. They get the first pick, and I think they lose against what I think they lose against Miami, and everyone thinks I'm insane. I think they lose against Miami.
I think
and if they do,
if Washington lose against Miami, a team that, as we've seen, has a plan for ineptitude, as opposed to Washington who just stumbled into it, then that is unforgivable. But
the thing is, Neil, I don't see how they win, and also if they don't win, like if I'm Tua, I'm not coming out. I'm not.
No, you may as well stay with a professional team, won't you?
Because, like, if I'm Saban, I'd be like, lad, you want no part of that team. Like, I guess Nick probably wouldn't want him to go to Miami, but that's a different conversation, right? But I just look and think, the Miami thing's got a chance of working. The Washington thing has 0 chance of working.
No, because it's like other situations going on in the UK at the moment. No one knows what it is. No one knows what the end result is. It's just a shitstorm that we seem to have wandered into, and we're just hoping we'll know when we get there.
Yeah, and you've got to trust people who you have no trust in whatsoever, telling you that it's going to be all right. You're all right, thanks. Neil.
I mean, I do mock, but I don't. There are 4 major sports in America. I don't know exactly how many teams that is. I don't know how many NBA teams there are, how many MLB teams there are, but
it's about 100. It's about 130 teams.
Okay, and when one team is being held up and by people whose opinions I respect, they're saying it is the worst run sports franchise in America. That's a problem.
It's a problem. It's a problem when there's the New York Knicks in that situation, if you know basketball. But anyway, that's enough, Neil. We've
just a quick one, just last one. Are you even bothering saying who you would want as a head coach because you know they're going to come in and fail?
What's the point? Like, I saw that, as you said, Eric Bieniemy is favourite. Like, I don't. Why is he favourite? Like, the bit I didn't understand was, why is he favourite? Is he favourite because he's the number 1 head coaching candidate right now and we haven't got a job? Because I'd be like, yeah, but in January there'll be 6 jobs up for grabs, and I guarantee 5 of them are better than this one. And also, why would Andy Reid let him go?
No.
Like, he'd just be like, there's all these other ones. Just take one of them.
Yeah, Reid's coached against Washington for a large portion of his career. He's going to say, don't have a bar of that.
No,
you can see what's going on. I can tell you myself, stay away from it.
Exactly, Neil. Let's go on to fancy, because otherwise I'll smash stuff. And let's find out who's going to be the best person to have in week 6 as Neil's fancy darling.
Hello, darling.
Who was the wide receiver who leads the NFL in receiving yards per game this season?
I have no idea, but you're going to tell me.
Michael Gallup.
Nice.
He leads the NFL wide receivers with 113 receiving yards per game. He's missed time, but in terms of fantasy points per game, he's the wide receiver 7 on the season. He's had 2 games of 20 or more PPR points. Cowboys are playing the hapless Jets, who didn't allow an awful lot to the Eagles wide receivers last week. That's because the Eagles offense was very, very hit and miss, but also the Eagles defense did most of the damage, so they didn't have to. But the Jets have allowed at least 38 PPR points to wide receivers in 4 of their 5 games, and 2 wide receivers have 100 yards and a touchdown in games against them this season. So Gallup is someone who... The Cowboys' offense is slightly schizophrenic at the moment, but if they get him going and Cooper, they've both shown they can be ridiculously efficient. But I like Gallup this week.
Is it schizophrenic, or is it the fact that they are they the best? Are they a good bad team. So are they the
Flat
best of the bad teams?
Flat track bullies.
Yeah, which is not a problem. Like, I think they've got talent. I do. Like, and I think they'll destroy the Jets. And in the touchdown 3, I'd pick them. But like, I wouldn't pick them against a good team because they need the very Washington, circa Kirk Cousins, the very Minnesota. They have a plan, and when the plan works, because you're the better team, they are great. But if someone moves the plan 2 inches to the right, the wheels fall off. Now I've got a clue what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think they're an 8-8 team.
Yeah. I think
because they'll beat who they should beat, but they'll probably lose the teams they should lose against.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, me and Neil could be seen to be biased in this, like, and that's fine. And if any Dallas Cowboys fans want to have a chat about how the fact that you are the most overhyped franchise every single year, and with the exception of about 2 years, you've been about Washington. So there you go. Take that in your pipe and
smoke it.
And J.R. Ewing or whatever. Right, Neil. Speaking of losers, let's get on to one.
I made a vow when we were doing the NFC West previews that Todd Gurley would not be on any one of my teams at any stage this season. I didn't draft him. I've not picked him up. I've not, streamed or anything. That will continue, and it certainly will continue this week. He's the RB15 so far this season, but that's largely buoyed by touchdowns. He hasn't had more than 16 rush attempts in a game. He's had 3 games in which he's seen 4 or fewer targets. In terms of opportunities, he's the RB16, so that's, carries and targets. He has met or exceeded his expected fantasy points once this season. So that's the, projections or, based on statistical models of how many points players should get. He has met or exceeded his tally once. The 49ers, who the Rams are playing this week, they yet to allow a rushing touchdown this season. And in their last 3 games, they've only allowed 10.3 PPR points total, on average, to total backfields. So that's whatever running backs the people have put out against them. Gurley is not... He's on for a loser this week.
Are you worried by the Rams as a whole, Neil?
Yes, because we've seen in the past where teams have been explosive on offense, and when we've said about them, we don't need them to be number 1 in defense, we just need them to be middle of the road. When the offense starts stumbling and the defense starts struggling again, then I worry. And I obviously have high hopes. High hopes. I obviously have a lot of time for Coach Phillips, but this defense is struggling.
Yeah, which is very un-Coach Phillips like. I'm concerned. The team this maybe it's a Super Bowl hangover thing, which can be overplayed a bit, but you haven't been great, and your defense isn't great, and the offense isn't great. Oh, and by the way, did anyone think that Seattle and San Francisco were going to be as good as they've been so far? I don't think they did. That's an issue as well. Neil, that's it for the fancy darling and loser. So let's tell everyone who we're picking this week in our draft team's team of the week.
Mainz and Dutton Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
Neil, who's your quarterback this week?
My quarterback this week is Gardner Minshew II. The Jags are playing the New Orleans Saints. Gardner Minshew has at least 18.8 fantasy points in every game this season. He's one of only 3 quarterbacks with 16 or more points in every game. There's him, Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray. Not bad company to keep. The Saints are allowing 26.4 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks this season and have allowed multiple touchdown passes in 3 of their 5 games. An underrated quality of Gardner Minshew's game is his rushing ability. He has the 5th most rushing yards among all quarterbacks, and the Saints have allowed 40 rushing yards this season to Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. So that's an area that, I'm not saying they're weak, but it's an area they can give up a few points. So Gardner Minshew is $5,000.
And let's be honest, Neil, it's cool to have a cool quarterback. And believe you me, Gardner Minshew is cool AF, as the kids would say. My quarterback is Marvin the Martian, He is playing the Atlanta Falcons at home in Arizona this week. If you didn't know, it's Kyler Murray. He's 6,500. Congratulations to Jay Gruden for being the first coach fired. Dan Quinn, you're up. Much to the similar situation of you were talking about with the Rams. You didn't win that Super Bowl. Don't know if you know. And since you didn't win that Super Bowl, your defense has been garbage. And everyone can talk about the fact that your team doesn't score a load of points anymore. It secretly does. It's just you don't stop anyone. So, like, when teams like the Texans, who about the week before had scored 7 points against the Jags, score a 50-burger on you, you probably got an issue.
Adam Rank said, that Dan Quinn, is a defensive coordinator, for the Seattle Seahawks. So he comes in, he's a head coach. So he's supposed to be a defensive-minded coach, and the defense is terrible. He said, it's like a famous chef who comes along to, like, a barbecue and can't cook. Basically, he keeps burning sausages and whatnot. Brian
Billick got... I love Billick. I actually do love him. I think he's really good, and, I'd love to speak to him and what have you. And he got put in the Ravens Ring of Honor. I think it was last week. He was an offensive genius, and his team couldn't score more than 20 points any season he was there.
And this we said at the time, because offensive guru put on the best defensive team, couldn't get any offense going, whereas in a sitting that the Baltimore used to play, a team they used to have in, they had Tony Dungy, great defensive mind, terrible defenses, but had Peyton Manning. It was like, these two need to swap. This isn't fair.
It's a bit weird. Yeah, no, definitely. But then again, we know what Tony Dungy would have been like with a really good defense. It's called the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Neil, who'd you running back one?
Running back one, $8,000 is Alvin Kamara. The New Orleans Saints, as we pointed out already, are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars, trying to think of a polite way to put this, got absolutely battered by Christian McCaffrey last week. They allowed 256 and 3 on the ground and 765 and 1 through the air to running backs. Alvin Kamara, as I say, is the running back 6 on the season, but it's one of those. Is he? Oh,
he's a quiet 6, and he's a quiet 6.
He is 11th in rushing yards, but 5th in receiving yards. So we've seen that the Jags defense is not all that it once was. So this game could be, keep it on the QT, could be something of a shootout. But basically, I'm going on what Alvin Kamara can do. It's pretty similar, I think, to what Christian McCaffrey did last week. I'm not chasing points. I just think the situation meshes nicely.
Makes sense. And Christian McCaffrey, sneaky good. What I love following is, I don't know if you follow. If you don't, you should. Everyone should follow Freezing Cold Takes as a Twitter handle. Because when Christian McCaffrey does stuff like that, you get a load of tweets from like Draftniks who tell you he can't run, and would be at best be a scatback. It's going well for those guys.
Yeah.
My running back one is Chris Carson, Seattle against the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if anybody stayed up till Monday night, but they got runned all over by Matt Breida and the Shahanahans, and they're playing Seattle. Don't know if anyone knows. They run a bit, and I think Carson has won this job. The penny experiment may finally be over. So I'm going Chris Carson here, $6,000.
If people could just finally get into the head that running backs from San Diego State, just ignore them. It's a very good system. No, I didn't stay up to watch it, and I've not watched the highlights anyway because I refuse to watch a game where a player refuses to shake another player's hand.
The second time.
Yeah, the second or the third time. And then, but then may come up and say a tweet, it gets me how much of a fuss everyone's making about this. Yeah, it's because you're a liar, Richard. This is why we're making a fuss. You're a liar.
The thing is, though, I imagine being in a world where king of the trash talkers, Richard Sherman, is offended by Baker Mayfield. Like, shouldn't they be kindred spirits? Like, yeah. I don't understand. It's a bit weird. Running back 2, Neil.
Running back 2. Now, this is pending, because he may not play, but at the moment it looks like he will, so that's why I'm going with David Johnson. He's the RB7. The Cardinals are playing the Atlanta Falcons, as you pointed out, and the Atlanta Falcons defense is trash. David Johnson is 19th in rushing yards, 4th in receiving yards. Now, one thing that the Falcons defense has been bad at under Dan Quinn is giving up receptions to running backs. However, they've actually not been too bad this season, but that's because you can throw everywhere on them and you don't have to dump it off. The Falcons have allowed 100 rushing yards to backfields in 3 of 5 games. Now, as I say, David Johnson is 7,600. If he doesn't play, I'm going with Leonard Fournette, because again, he's a genuine. He's pretty much he's entered that workhorse status. He's going to get all the carries and he's getting a ton of work out in the receiving game. And the Saints defense, it's okay, but it's not wonderful. And again, that could be another game that might shoot out. So Johnson for me for now. But if it progresses that he doesn't look like he's going to play, I'm going to sub him out and I'm going to put in Leonard Fournette.
Okay, my running back 2 is Matt Breida. The San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan are so cool to watch. I love watching Kyle Shanahan offenses. Freudian slip there. They're cool. Breida will probably run for 100 yards because he has done most games. Will you get the touchdown? Depends what mood Kyle's in, to be brutally honest with you. Like, the touchdown you will get is the one he got this week, which is the 80-yard one, because Kyle can't stop him on the one and get someone else to vulture it. Yeah, I'm feeling all nostalgic after losing Jay Gruden, so I'm gonna get deep on the shenanigans.
Are you not concerned about the loss of perennial MVP candidate Kyle Juszczyk? Because I know Booger was, singing his praises about how important he was to the entire offense. I never thought I'd miss Jason Witten.
Oh, I don't mind Booger.
Talks utter bollocks.
Yeah, but so did Jason. I think I've said this before, and I seem to be like a shouting to like this guy. Like, with the exception of Romo, name me a good one. Collinsworth, yeah, all right. Oh look, Sunday night. It's the Fox game at 9:00. We're in Dallas. Oh, home game for Troy there. Like, no, Troy, no, stop it. Thanks a lot. Here's a handshake. Off you go. Like, apart from Romo, who'd you like? Charles Davis.
Charles Davis is great. I don't mind Dan Fouts, but he is a little bit, in my day, he's approaching boycott levels at times. But
Fouts is reaching that. How long ago was it since you were a player? Is it a little bit too long? But to be fair to Fouts, he usually has a cool game because he's with Iron Eagle, and they get what I would describe as the old Gus Johnson game most weeks.
Yeah, I love Iron Eagle. Anyone whose name is Ian, but they pronounce it Iron, yeah.
It's a good man for me. Yeah. Neil, who's your wide receiver 1?
Wide receiver 1, and I'm not chasing fantasy points, but I am, is Will Fuller. He had the 9th best PPR game by a wide receiver in history. And it would have been even better, but he got tackled at the 1 yard line twice. And it's one of those, I know it's not a question of, he was due, but you look at his air yards, which is a predictive metric for how far downfield a player is being targeted. He was waiting for a big game, obviously not that big. I don't think anyone expected that. But again, Houston Texans are playing the Kansas City Chiefs. So Mahomes versus Deshaun Watson. Yeah. I need pieces of this game. The Chiefs have allowed 10 or more receptions to wide receivers in 3 of 5 games and have given up 40 or more PPR points to wide receivers twice this season. The Chiefs defense, as we said, doesn't have to be the Baltimore Ravens, doesn't have to be the 85 Bears. It needs to be better than it is, especially if Mahomes is going to, keep getting hits to his ankle, and it's not. It's not a good defense at the moment. It's almost like there's a reason Steve Spagnuolo was out of work.
Yeah, who would have known, Neil? I see you've gone Will Fuller there, while all the DeAndre Hopkins stands just get angrier and angrier on Twitter because he's not being thrown the ball. What is that about?
Well, I mean, Will Fuller got 48% of the targets last week. Do you know why? Because he kept catching the ball a long way down the field.
Yeah.
So
the Houston Texans are good on offense when Will Fuller plays. Just facts. My wide receiver one is I'm not chasing fancy points either, Neil. Is Adam Thielen. 6,700. He is playing the Philadelphia Eagles. As me and Neil have passed to each other through many a text message over many a year, Eagles cornerbacks are burnt toast. They stink. And I know what you're thinking, Mainz. You've done that thing that you said you wouldn't do, which is rely on Kirk Cousins in a game against a good team, and you're probably right. But he'll throw it to someone, and he'll also throw it to the Eagles a few times. But I'm not here for that. I've actually picked the Eagles in my touchdown 3 because I think they'll win, and then the Vikings are favourites. Complete madness. These people have not watched Kirk Cousins in a big game before. Adam Thielen's good, and although he slagged off his quarterback, he didn't ask for a trade. Also, don't want to say anything related to this, but I'm going to go vagaries. That quarterback got a congratulatory note from a president of the United States of America. By the way, there's only one. The guy he threw it to loads last week, and the guy who he didn't throw it to, who asked for a trade, are different in some ways. I'll let you draw your own conclusions on what I'm trying to suggest.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, fuck Kirk Cousins.
Wide receiver 2, Neil.
Any friend of...
we try not to talk about it, Neil.
Yeah. And I don't use the F-bomb at all on this podcast because I know the kids are listening. My wide receiver 2 is Michael Gallup, 5,600, for reasons previously revealed.
My wide receiver 2 is every year, I think for the past 4 years, I've picked this player once under the think of, I may never get to pick Larry Fitzgerald again, so I'm going to pick him again. He's the handcuff for Marvin the Martian, obviously, but also, it's great to pick Larry Fitzgerald. Makes you feel good about the world. Yeah. He's 6,100, and he's awesome.
Cliff Kingsbury's quest to make Zane Gonzalez the leading scorer in all of fantasy football is the most noble and selfless quest since the Fellowship of the Ring left Rivendell. Because I would really, really like to introduce the Cardinals to this 21st century concept. It's called a touchdown.
Oh.
You're allowed to score them, you horizontal game planning twerp. Take a shot downfield for the love of God.
The only way they score touchdowns is when Marvin decides he's going to do it himself.
Yeah. Very, very undemocratic.
It is it is. Neil, who's your wide receiver 3?
Wide receiver 3 is DJ Chark. 5,500. Again, I want another piece of that Jags-Saints game. Chark, has just been a revelation. Coming out of LSU, a team we don't have an awful lot of good things to say about as a college program. He's the wide receiver 5. A Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver, when they lost their quarterback in the first quarter, the first game of the season, is wide receiver 5. He's had 2 weeks as a wide receiver 1 and another 2 weeks as a wide receiver 2. He's scored in 4 of his 5 games. The Saints have allowed 35 or more PPR points to wide receivers in 4 of 5 games and have given up 7 wide receiver receiving touchdowns in those 5 games. He has a link. He has a connection with Gardner Minshew, and Minshew doesn't seem to be afraid to throw it to him in any situation.
Not only does Gardner Minshew not afraid to throw it to him, DJ Chark is not afraid to, catch it. And he does all the time. So my wide receiver 3 is DJ Chark, because he is awesome, and he is the number 1 go-to guy for Gardner Minshew. My question is, Neil, I have got to be missing something here. Got to be missing something. Because he scored a bajillion points last week. and a bajillion points, the week before. And at the moment, on DraftKings, as you said, he's 5,500. Like,
I think.
did he not think he's good? Are we ahead of a game here?
I think DraftKings rush out the next week's prices too quickly. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they rush out them on the Saturday before the game. The Saturday before the first game, they're already getting the prices ready because Chark should be going up. I'm not saying 8,000 for DJ Chark. No. Let's be serious here. But he should be more than this. I shouldn't have been looking at this team thinking, well, I've got Kamara and David Johnson. I can still afford the wide receiver 5 in fantasy football. I'll take it.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, Julio Jones is 8,000, Michael Thomas 7,800, Devontae Adams 7,500, Hopkins 7,400, which we discussed. Like, he should be 7,000.
Tyreek Hill is 7,006, isn't he? Tyreek Hill is 7,006. He hasn't played this week.
He's down to 6,009 now.
Oh, that's good of them. Hasn't played for 5 weeks.
No, I know, exactly. Odell Beckham Jr., 6,000.
But, it's just slightly baffling.
Odell Beckham Jr., 6,800. That's what I'm saying. He's got 4 balls and DJ Shark's 5. Well, just get on it. So, Put it this way. When you haven't got DJ Shark in your daily fantasy team and you get beat because the guy had DJ Shark, you'll know why. Neil, who's your tight end?
My tight end was Chris Herndon. He was going back off suspension. However, in his first practice, he's pulled his friggin' hamstring. So, hats off to you, Chris, dickhead. So I will go with another tight end that I wrote about this week, and that's Gerald Everett, who has been sensational over the last 2 weeks. He scored 36 PPR points, leads all tight ends. Only Austin Hooper, who we know, you've got to feed the hoop. Only Austin Hooper has more receiving yards among the tight ends than Gerald Everett over the last 2 weeks. The Rams are playing the 49ers. The 49ers haven't given up an awful lot of production to tight ends this season, but if you look at the teams they've played, they haven't exactly been teams that force feed their tight end. So I don't think they've been truly tested. And it looks like Brandon Cooks isn't going to play, so we've seen, as I've already stated, I don't think this is going to be a game where the Rams are going to be able to, brackets, establish the run. So I think they are going to pass the ball, and one of the parts of their offense that seem to be working is Cooper Kupp, obviously, and Gerald Everett.
And my tight end is in the same game. It's George Kittle. I love him because he's a tight end in a Kyle Shanahan offense. That's usually a good thing. And also, he loves the wrestling like myself. So,
I can't get enough of it.
Big time, 5,200, George Kittle. Who's your flex, Neil?
Flex is Chris Thompson, the Washington semi-professional amateur Division 3 Division 3 FCS team, I don't know, against Miami. I think regardless of whether it's Keenum, whether it's Colt McCoy, whether it's the ghost of Joe Theismann, whoever it is, I don't think Thompson is going to own all the running back carries, far from it, but he's a reliable target. And Washington, Miami have bled fancy points to running backs this season, even in the passing game. So 5,000 as a flex, I'll take Chris Thompson.
Yeah, my flex is Michael Gallup, 5,600. I'm with Neil. I think he's great. He's playing the Jets, and say quietly, but I think he's the best wide receiver on the Dallas Cowboys. Who's your defense and special teams, Neil?
3,200, Washington.
Honest to God, F off. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's a toss-up. But I want one of the defenses in that game. I tossed the coin and it landed ahead, so I took the Redskins.
Okay, fair enough. I don't want to talk about it. My defense and special teams is the Saints. There'll be a lot of movement in that game, right? As you said, sneaky shootout, lots of throwing. Minshew's great. He also fumbled 3 times against Carolina, lost all 3. That's an issue. We can say how cool he is, but that is an issue.
It does seem to be an issue as well that Kyle Allen seems to have as well. These a couple of the young quarterbacks. It's like, just hold on to the damn ball, please.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I'm going with the Saints. Neil, let's quickly recap who's quarterback.
Gardner Minshew.
I've got Kyler Murray, running back 1.
Alvin Kamara.
I've got Chris Carson, RB2.
David Johnson for now. GTD, Leonard Fournette.
I've got Matt Breda, wide receiver 1.
Will Fuller.
I've got Adam Thielen, wide receiver 2.
Giddy up, it's Michael Gallup.
I've got Larry Fitz, wide receiver 3.
DJ Chark. Do.
Cosign, tight end.
My boy Gerald Everett.
I've got George Kittle. Flex.
Chris Thompson.
Got Mike Gallup, defense and special teams.
Washington.
I've got New Orleans. I hope you lose. Neil, where can people catch you this week?
On the Twitter, as Dutton13, usual outpouring of work from me. My weekly stats at Numberfire. Talking about people like Will Fuller, Christian McCaffrey, just the historic days they had. My wide receiver usage report, target report on Rotoviz, tight end streaming report, also for Rotoviz. Also, I wrote for Ravenswire this week a look at, as we hit we basically go full force into the bye weeks, 10 players on the waiver wire who you could probably go up and pick up that may be able to reinforce you for now or help you throughout the rest of the season. And a couple of players on that list are in my DFS team. That's Gardner Minshew, who at the time of writing was available in 80% of ESPN leagues, and Gerald Everett, who was available in about 90% of them. So that's on Ravenswire, but that's me for this week.
This week, I am at Mainz7. I'm at Mainz7 every week. To be honest, like I'll be truthful. Unless you want to see retweets of people slagging off Washington or the unbearable Reds, I'd stay away from me right now because I am in full effect.
I have to watch you.
You want to see my WhatsApp with Mullen? That's all I'm going to say on the matter. It's amazing. Later this week, the touchdown 3 will come out. 1 and 2 last week. The thing is, Dutton, as Mike Tyson once said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. So what's my plan? After being punched, we'll find out. Combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. We hope you had fun. We know it was Washington heavy. Luckily, because the team's so bad, we won't talk about them again. On that note, these top guys are out.